Well, great to see everyone, or not to see you, but to be here with you today. I really appreciate all the efforts that you made this past fall semester. We welcomed so many new students to our campus and new colleagues, and you made it happen. You made just a great fall semester. And as we move into the spring semester, I'm grateful for all the work that you've put in to making sure that we have another great one there as well. Uh, Today, you're going to hear a few quick updates on a number of issues, and there's a good long list of topics that we'll go through. But I wanted to add a few highlights up front as a prelude to some of the issues that we'll talk about and discussions that we'll have and comments that we'll hear from our panelists today. You will hear a couple of things. If you keep hearing noises, my email box is flooding with stuff from my colleagues, and we'll just bear with it for now. What you're going to hear is about important efforts on the development of our new campus comprehensive planning efforts. And think about the evolution of our campus over the last 10 years or so, creating this remarkable place to learn, to work, to be, for our students to live. This was a result of deliberate planning efforts that happened about 10 years ago about what our physical campus should look like. And now we're beginning the process of looking at what the next 10 or so years will look like. And this process will be an amazing process. Our goal is to make it a lot like the UND Leads process, where we brought voices from across the campus together. We want you to be involved. And so next week, we have a survey coming forward, and you will receive that in an email early next week to make sure that you know how to access that survey. And we want to hear your voice there. In addition, we have an open forum on February 5th. This is a chance for everybody to come together physically and talk about ideas and share those ideas with each other about how we can move forward with the physical plan for our campus infrastructure. There's also a dedicated website and an upcoming UND Today story that's going to be out as well that talks about this whole effort. So the bottom line is we want to hear from you. And so I encourage you to use your voice and your ideas. Many of you have been here on campus and you've seen the evolution, and undoubtedly you have ideas about how to move forward. So I encourage your involvement. Today, you'll also hear, outside of that particular effort, work on the upcoming launch of our new job and career architecture system. There's been much discussion over the last year and a half or two, but there's been much work that's happened kind of unseen to the campus about developing a better system for how we connect our jobs together, how we understand and how to have consistency across the units on campus, but most importantly, how you as individuals can progress through your careers here at UND in a very visible way, and using that architecture as guideposts to make that happen. We want to make sure that you have an amazing experience at UND, and also that UND is a workplace of choice and that people see it as a great place to come to work. Let me thank Peggy Varberg and her entire team for their exceptional efforts on making this happen. In addition, there's a lot happening outside of the campus. The legislature is currently talking about how higher ed is going to be funded in the long term and the approaches there. And we've had great input thanks to Carla Mojon-Stewart, our Vice President for Finance and Operations, Vice President Marjorie Jenkins, Peter Johnson, and Tom Erickson from the EERC, who participated this week in discussions out at the Capitol building. More to follow soon on those. But probably the most important thing I need to say is when we look around the world and even at neighboring states and across the U.S., there's certainly a lot happening, a lot of tension across the world. What's been happening in Iran, in Venezuela, continuing activities in Gaza and Ukraine, and certainly conflict across Africa. Also front and center is what recently happened in Minnesota following the shooting death of Renee Good. Of course, this heightens tensions on our campus. All of these things draw our attention, and also in the local Grand Forks community as well. There is certainly uncertainty and tension among our international campus members, not only because of the amplification of ICE operations that we've seen in neighboring Minnesota, but also because of the uncertainty in various aspects of our visa process. But I need to remind you that our goals on our campus, it's very important. We want to make sure that your emotional and physical needs are being taken care of, that your well-being is at the front and center of our decisions as a campus. We know that you have concerns for both your family and friends here in the States, but also family and friends back in homelands. And we want to make sure that you're taken care of. We hear you, and we want to make sure that you're okay. For faculty and staff, the Employee Assistance Program is a great resource that can help you out. And for our students, the University Counseling Center is also a great resource for them. We also want to make sure we're promoting a campus that has strong connection and strong civility in the way that we work with each other and the way that we debate ideas and share ideas. And we've talked about it all along, but our goal is to make sure that we look out for one another, to make sure that we build that sense of community that's strong and unwavering, and also to reinforce your rights as individuals to the right in our nation, the right to free expression. And so that individual right is an important one. So all of these things, how we interact, how we take care of one another, has been a hallmark of our university. I'm proud of it, and I want that to continue, especially during these difficult and uncertain times. In terms of information sharing specifically, our goal is to give good and timely information. I have to thank Manuela Gabriel, the director of our International Center, for her leadership and for the information sharing she gives to our students primarily, but also other members who come from abroad to our campus. Also, our UND website has great information on the guidance about federal executive orders, not just about immigration issues, but also a wide variety of issues related to research activities and scholarships and student aid. So I'm going to leave it there for now. I've probably talked too much for the opening session, but there's a lot happening on our campus, a lot happening off our campus, and we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to share your ideas, to feel that welcoming spirit, and to help build that sense of community. And with that, let me turn it over to our lead facilitator today, Vice President Melanie Linder. And Melanie, good to see you. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much, President Armacost, and thank you to everyone for joining us today. We're going to start off. We have a few updates. As President Armacost mentioned, there's just so much activity on campus and off. So while people continue to put their questions into the question and answer area, I'm going to turn it over to various members of our panelists who are going to give us some very brief updates. To kick us off, the first update, I'm going to turn it over to Provost Link to give us an update on where we are with our dean searches.
Thank you so much, Vice President Linder, and nice to see everyone metaphorically on the screen here all the folks who are joining us today. We've got a really nice crowd at today's town hall. Let me say welcome to the spring semester. We are off and running for what we expect will be an amazing spring semester. There's so much going on campus, and I promised I would keep my opening remarks very brief. And I do want to talk about the dean searches, but I thought folks would like to know that while we're still a few weeks away from census in terms of enrollment, we also report on our day one numbers. And I thought folks would be interested to know that on day one of the spring semester, we were at 14,675 students on campus. Last year at day one, we were 14,077. So that's an increase of 598 students. Congratulations to everyone, and thanks to everyone across the entire UND community for their great work providing amazing educational experiences for our students. So I'm going to say just a couple words just to keep everyone up to speed on where we're at with our 3 dean searches that are underway. The search for the Nistler College of Business and Public Administration, the best consideration deadline for that closed on January 5th. I believe that the search committee is currently reviewing files, and you should expect on-campus interviews to be held in mid-February for that search. For the School of Graduate Studies, the best consideration date closes February 11th in that search, and we should expect to have on-campus interviews around mid-March for that particular search. And for the School of Law, the best consideration date is February 2nd, and we should expect to have finalists on campus sometime in late March. So it's going to be a very busy semester in terms of welcoming potential leaders to campus, and I hope everyone will get an opportunity to participate in the forums and the other activities related to those finalist itineraries. Thanks, everybody, and let's have a great spring semester. Vice President Linder, back to you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over now to Vice President Mojan Stewart. Vice President Mojan Stewart, will you give us an update on the Job Architecture and Compensation Project?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. Unfortunately, Peggy Varberg is not able to be with us today, but I did visit with her and I wanted to just give you a brief update. I also want to make sure that everybody knows that I am committed to getting a more detailed email out to the campus community in the next week or so. With a lot more details than what I'm able to get to today. First and foremost, we continue to actively work on this program, and I know there's been a lot of comments about this is taking a really long time. Where are we at with the process? When are we going to find out what's going on? And I just want to assure the campus community that the primary reason it is taking a long time is because we are fully committed to doing this right, and we don't want to roll anything out that we don't all feel good about, that we can't get behind, and that we want to make sure that all of our staff and faculty are supportive and that we understand exactly the architecture, how it's been developed. And so we have been working in small groups, and we've had some independent reviews to make sure that what's been presented and how we put everything together makes sense. So I just want to emphasize that the reason it's taking so long is really about our commitment to getting it right and not rolling something out that we have to walk back or step back on because we didn't think through exactly how this was going to work. And so I do apologize for the time. I know everybody's anxious about what does this mean for me and my position and my title, but please know our hearts are absolutely in the right place and we want to get this right. So I just want to give a really quick overview. You hear a lot about, well, we're doing a job architecture framework, and I want to explain what does that mean, because that's really at the core of what this study is accomplishing for UND. A job architecture is a structured framework that organizes roles by defining job families for similar jobs, similar experience requirements, similar degree requirements, for example. And it also creates career streams and levels for similar positions, but some that may require more or less experience. And what we are trying to accomplish through this process is establishing consistent standards across the campus for positions, so that if there is a position in one department and the duties are pretty much the same, that we treat that position and that title the same as we would in another department on campus. We also want to make sure that we have consistent standards for evaluation and compensation. And we want to make sure through this job architecture program that there is transparency, so anyone at any time can go and look, okay, this is my position, this is where I fall in the job architecture, therefore my salary range for this job is this. That is all going to be publicly available, so folks know where they're at in their market, where their position is located in the total job architecture, and it's going to be very transparent to our employees. We also are clearly outlining the responsibilities, the skills required, and progression paths for our employees and for every position. We are very hopeful that through this process, we do a better job of helping folks in our purview get career development and have a path to promotion and other job opportunities. And they know how to get there, and they know what skills and abilities that they need to get there. And so we're really excited about it. But like I mentioned, we're just trying to get it right. Phase one was making sure that we did not have any protected class issues, and how that works is we would look at protected class items on our information about our employees, and if we had any issues with salary or job architecture with employees that fit in those class, and making sure that they were aligned properly with market. That was done in March of 2024. We had very few issues, and we addressed those immediately. Right now, we're in that phase of making sure we get it right. The job architecture is finalized. We've now put every position within the job architecture, where the position is, what the title for that position should be. And again, this is where we're doing that really heavy review, that we make sure that when we roll something out, we can get behind it and everybody can live with the new architecture. So that's the phase that we're in right now. And then beginning in February, we will start the implementation phase. So in February, we will be having divisional, college, and area leaders receiving their information for, again, another review to make sure that we didn't miss anything, that someone's job description was really not accurate, and that modifications maybe would need to be made. And we will meet with those divisional leaders, the compensation team, and their HR partner, and make sure that everybody has a good understanding of the process, of the people, of the job descriptions, and of how those positions were placed in each band. And then after that process, we will be scheduling meetings with divisions and departments to roll out supervisor training, to make sure that everybody understands the new staff architecture, the mechanics of how it works, and the process of how to ensure that a position is in the right job band and is classified appropriately in the system. So that will begin in February. And again, I am committed to getting out a campus-wide message to explain this and a little bit more detail in the coming week, to really just share as much information as I have. I really appreciate everybody's patience. This is going to be a really, really good change for UND, and we need to get it right, and we are committed to doing so. So thank you, Provost, you're Provost now, Vice President Linder, for giving me a few minutes to talk about that.
Yes, thank you so much. As President Armacost mentioned, there's a lot of activity happening on campus and throughout the nation, and we continue to monitor things that are happening at the federal level. So I'm now going to turn it over to Vice President Scott Snyder, who oversees our research and economic development, to give us an update.
Yeah, thank you, Vice President Linder. It's as many of us know, 2025 was the word in federal funding and federal research funding was uncertain, was kind of the word of the year. That the shutdown exacerbated that, of course, and then as we moved into this year, over the last 36 hours, we were caught again by a great deal of uncertainty. Many of you may have heard from your colleagues or from the news that the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration suddenly canceled $2 billion in grants starting about 36 hours ago. And that would have caused some considerable challenges in some of our colleges at the University of North Dakota. I am relieved to say that the administration has rolled that back, and Health and Human Services has rolled that back. And those grants will be reinstated, we are told. And So it's really good news, but in that 36 hours, of course, it caused a great deal of uncertainty, and I think that trend continues a bit. Now, good news is that after the shutdown and ended, there coming into this year, there are appropriations bills that are coming out of conference, the Senate and the House conference, where they kind of reconcile the bills and come up with the same language. And it appears that the bill that will fund that funds NASA, NSF, and the Department of Energy should pass this week, and that other bills will be passing over the next couple of weeks that will provide funding for various things related to university research and university functions. So that's a relief. And the level of funding in those appropriation bills is considerably higher than what President Trump called for, and is in keeping essentially with last year's level of funding. So that's very helpful. In addition, those bills also restrict the federal agencies from reducing F&A, indirect costs, that is, and call for the agencies to keep those at 2024 levels, which is a big relief for us. So those are really the highlights, and as we move on, I'm sure there will be additional uncertainty, but don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Thanks.
Thank you so much, VP Snyder. I'm now going to turn it over to Vice President and Dean Marjorie Jenkins to give us an update from the School of Medicine and Health Sciences.
Thank you, VP Linder. So just want to focus on one of our new initiatives, which is UND.85. That was a legislative guidance that came out in the higher ed funding bill in the last biennium and assembly. And so we've been doing a lot of grassroots efforts working with the Central UND recruitment team, which has been phenomenal. So quickly, some of the highlights: we have a pre-health advising team under Brittany Borgen, who's been working with us, Jackie Schofield, Angela Carey, Abby Varberg, and Melissa Leclerc has been assisting as well. And that has really been very successful, and I think will continue to be successful. I will say that we have, UND.85 is for the MD program and the PA program. And the guidance was that we would achieve 85% North Dakota residents in those two programs by 2030. This year, we have had an initial acceptance rate of just under 83% for North Dakota legal residents. And we have an acceptance and matriculation, meaning they've accepted us back so far for the PA program of 85%. And so, of course, that can change as people get other offers and may go to other schools. But right now, we're looking much higher than last year, and I think that it's been really a team effort. So some of the things we're doing, this is just a really grassroots program, calling all of the high schools in North Dakota, partnering with the Career Impact Academy in Grand Forks, and opening up to the Career and Technical Education Conference, and dialogue with CTE instructors across the state. So these may be students that are looking for vocational or technical, but may be interested in a health sciences, a health career of MD or PA or OT. And so we want to tell them that they can come here and be successful. We have had consistent number of applications from the last cycle, but some elevation of some of the metrics that we look at, like GPA, for instance, and MCAT scores. We also have a really exciting new MCAT prep course, which the MCAT is the entry exam that all students take to apply to medical school. And it's a 1-hour course by Sarah Sletton, Dr. Sletton. We have 70 students enrolled now for that course. That is huge. That means they are seriously considering taking the MCAT and applying to medical school. So that's been wonderful. And we have 800 students coming to Grand Forks for HOSA, which is the high school health careers group across the state. And we will be very involved in that 3-day conference. So I would say that we received guidance and great interest from our legislators to the School of Medicine around the MD and PA programs, and we are really showing up in a really strong way. So I will stop there, VP Linder, just for the sake of time. But of course, if anyone has any questions about the School of Medicine and Health Sciences or our relationships across the state with their 6 health systems, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice President Jenkins. And we have one more update before we turn it over to the questions that are being submitted. And I'm going to start with Vice President Mojan Stewart. Is an update on several construction projects that are underway or in the works, and also a little bit about clearing our snow and sanding our walkway.
Thank you, Vice President Linder. We've gotten a lot of feedback, and it was all very justified feedback on the sidewalks and streets. This has been an extremely unusual winter for the University of North Dakota and for our state. The amount of ice due to the mild conditions that we've experienced this year is significantly more and different than what we have seen in probably the last 10 years. And I'm going to say right up front, we don't get it right every time. We try really hard. And there have been several questions posed about, why did the campus stay open, or the concerns about the quality of the sidewalks, etc. And again, we are grateful for the feedback that is coming into us because it helps us make better decisions in the future. So please continue to send us that feedback, and know we work really hard to get it right, but we don't always get it right. And because of the levels of ice things that we did, and I'm going to turn this over to Corey here in just a moment, things that would normally work for a traditional winter in alleviating our ice problems didn't work. And so I'm going to turn it over to Corey Schock, who is our Director of Operations and Facilities, and he can give you a little bit more information about the snow and sidewalks. But again, appreciate all of the feedback. We definitely take that all into consideration as we think about how we can better serve not only our students, but our staff and faculty. And, we're committed to taking that feedback and looking at what we do in the future. Corey, do you have anything additional you would like to share about the snow and ice removal and where we're at so far?
Thank you, Vice President Stewart. Yes, I do have some things I'd like to add. Make sure my camera's on here. I'd like to start just by providing a quick update on the snow removal. Our snow removal team, which is our landscaping team, has been working hard over the past month dealing with 2 blizzards, a heavy snow event, freezing rain, as well as continual freeze and thaw conditions. The start of this winter, as Vice President Stewart has mentioned, has been much different than the past couple years. Depending on a particular event, it can take our team a week or more to recover from these types of events so that we're prepared for the next event. Our team consists of 10 full-time staff that grows anywhere from 11 after that up to 25 during a major snow event, depending on the severity of the event. We have some new team members this year also, which has led to a few learning curves that we haven't necessarily had in the past, as well as people working in different equipment than prior years. We also didn't have a smaller light snow event to lead us into the season prior to our heavy snow event that first week of December. The team typically clears 4 million square feet of parking space, approximately 5 miles of roads, around 23 miles of sidewalks. Over the past month, we've hauled out over 415 dump trucks loads of snow. That number would actually have risen quite higher if not for some mechanical breakdowns. We always strive to do our best, but we know there are areas that we can make safer. I do acknowledge that there were some issues, especially with the ice event on December 26th with icy sidewalks due to the freezing rain. That day alone, we did put down 15 yards of sand and brine, which is considerable for one event, but also understanding it was a pretty severe ice event. Lessons learned from that, in hindsight, with how cold it was out, we should have went to far more sand than brine. The sand would have offered much more traction. I'd also just like to state, please do not hesitate to report anything to the operations center that's safety related. So if there's icy sidewalks, parking lots, please let the operations center know, and we can address it very timely. The past 2 weeks with minimal weather have actually allowed us to get the campus in great shape for the start of the semester though. I'd also like to provide one other quick update regarding our cleaning services. We've had a real challenge, as many know, filling our building service technician positions since 2020 around COVID. Last year alone, just from January through June, we gained roughly as many staff members as we lost within those crews. To fill those vacancies, we started to look at other options. In July of this year, we made the decision to adjust our schedule for all new hires to work a more friendly 5 a.m. to 1:30 shift, and allow our overnight staff to also move to this shift. What that has done is it's attributed to 18 new hires since July, with 3 additional hires, hopefully that we'll have on board within the next week, bringing our total to 21 just from July 1st alone. So a great number of new staff to help out within the buildings. 2 of our crews have actually moved fully over to the day shift, and we'll continue to move more staff as we are able to. We now have approximately 53 staff that start anywhere between 4 and 5 a.m. and work to 12:30 or 1:30, depending on the shift, with 36 staff working overnight and a few other staff with some mixed shifts in the middle. So all buildings should now have very good coverage during the day. We appreciate the feedback that we've received also from the campus community, faculty and staff regarding this transition. It's been very positive. I know that the staff has enjoyed communicating with people, unlike the overnight shifts when they are basically working amongst themselves. So it's been a real positive experience for those that have moved. And we also continue to ask for feedback from building contacts departments regarding if there's anything we can improve during those day shifts. So if it's a particular time that isn't working out when we're in your space, please let the supervisor of those BST groups know that, and we can make those modifications. With that said, we'd also like to begin cleaning offices again, starting on February 1st. So our initial plan will be once a month, with the possibility of moving that to every 2 weeks in the future. So our BST supervisors will be working with the building contacts very shortly to let you know what that schedule is once we get started. So, thank you.
Thank you, Corey. I'm going to turn it over to Brian Larson to just give a very brief update on some upcoming construction projects and their impact on the campus. I'll turn it over to you, Brian.
Okay. Thank you, Vice President Stewart, and good afternoon. I'll provide a brief update on a number of projects here on campus. We'll start with some of the ongoing efforts to relocate departments out of Columbia Hall. And so there's a series of renovation projects that are underway or will be starting shortly. First is the renovation in Twombly Hall to create a new office suite for the Dean of Arts and Sciences. Dean Runquist and his team will be moving over to Twombly Hall here later in the spring semester. We also have an ongoing project in Gamble Hall to do some significant renovations and updates throughout that building to prepare new spaces for the psychology department, communication sciences and disorders, The Northern Prairie Community Clinic as well will be moving over to Gamble Hall. Those renovations are getting started now, and we'll plan to move those departments over this summer. The bookstore will be moving over to a new location at the Field House at Memorial Village, also known as Memorial Village 2. When the bookstore moves over to their new location later this spring, we'll start a renovation in their current space to prepare a new area for biomedical engineering, who will also be moving out of Columbia Hall to their new location. Looking beyond those renovations here on campus, the STEM project, the first phase of the STEM project, will be starting up this spring. Last fall, we completed the demolition of the Hislop Sports Center, and we did some utility relocations and soil corrections. So we're looking forward to starting construction of the new building, the first phase of the STEM complex this spring. And so we want to make sure everyone is aware that there will be additional truck traffic and congestion back in that area on Cornell Street and 2nd Avenue North. We expect construction to take approximately 2 years and open up that building for classes the fall semester of 2028. We have a number of other projects across campus planned for this year. A few of them that'll be more impactful will be the replacement of the Fox Memorial pedestrian bridge, reconstruction of a portion of West Centennial Road. We have a number of roof replacements, HVAC updates, elevator updates, as well as a series of classroom improvement projects that we're working on with UIT. And then looking just outside of our campus, the city of Grand Forks and the North Dakota DOT has a very large project at the intersection of 42nd Street and Demers Avenue. Most people are aware of this project, but just to provide a brief update, the project will be opening bids later this winter with a construction start date happening just after spring commencement. This will be a very large and impactful project for accessing our campus from the south and from the west. We are expecting 42nd Street to be closed south of James Ray Drive. Again, they're telling us this will happen after spring commencement. We expect that this closure will last 2 years. Demers Avenue will be detoured to the south, and east-west traffic will be allowed to travel through, but north-south traffic will be disrupted. This significant project will include deep foundation pile driving, a number of utility relocations, bridge construction, and significant excavation. So this will be a very busy area of town, and we'll have to find alternate routes to and from campus. As I mentioned, this will be an estimated 2-year project. During that time frame, Ray Richards Golf Course will be closed down as well. And the university is working closely with the city on a potential development project on the golf course.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so much. That's a lot of construction continuing to go on as part of our campus renewal. We are going to get to questions now, but as I said in the beginning, there are just so many things happening on our campus. We wanted to make sure to get those updates out. The first question is one that was pre-submitted by our staff senate, so we're going to get to that first, and then we'll move on to those that have been added to our online forum. The first question, I'm going to start with Vice President Mojan Stewart. There are rumors of structural issues within the newly rebuilt West Hall. Is there any truth or clarification that could be provided on that?
VP Stewart, thanks for the question. I just wanted to let everyone know those questions came to light for us the first year that West Hall was open because there were cracks in the stairwells. And we did, out of an abundance of caution, hire a structural engineer to review the building. And the building got a clean bill of health. And as many of you know in your homes, settling occurs in Grand Forks just due to the soil that we are on. And so they validated and clarified that the cracks were just due to standard settling that occurs in our region. So West Hall is absolutely safe. We've repaired the cracks and we're ready to roll.
Excellent. Thank you so much. The next question, I'm going to start with you, Vice President Mojan Stewart, and then I believe you may have Chief Clerk add to it as well. But during the recent blizzard on December 28th, UND remained opened during an active blizzard warning with no travel advisory from the North Dakota Department of Transportation. Well, local businesses in town, including daycares and restaurants, still had a delayed opening to give plows time to plow the residential streets. UND employees many of them live near the campus, but we remained open, and wondering if you can just give us a little bit of an update on the decision-making process we made to stay open while others were closed.
Absolutely. And again, I think this can go back to lessons learned. I think in hindsight, we might have done things differently. We did meet the evening before facilities and some members of the leadership team, and made an action plan for clearing sidewalks and clearing the roads on campus. But again, I will accept full responsibility of this one, not fully contemplating how the conditions in the city, if they weren't ready for the storm, how those would impact our staff and faculty. So in the future, we will try to do a much better job of getting those assessments done, especially on breaks when we are not working with our traditional partners, which is the city of Grand Forks and Grand Forks Public Schools, when we decide to make a closure. So I'm going to take this one on and apologize, and just know we're committed to learning from each of those experiences.
All right, Carla, if you wouldn't mind just staying on, because the next
Sure.
question is another subsidies question. Will there ever be a walkway or tunnel built between the student union and the library?
I think that's a great question. And for the gentleman that submitted that, Mr. Miller, I believe, please, we are knee deep in our planning for the master planning that's going to be starting here in at the end of January. These are the kinds of questions and ideas that we are looking for. So the answer for you is I have no idea, but I think it's a really good suggestion and something we need to contemplate. So please make sure when we have those opportunities to provide feedback and ideas of our campus master plan, that idea and any others that any of you as employees, faculty, and staff have for improvements we can make to our campus, to please actively participate in that process.
Thank you so much. The next question, I'm going to try to answer it, and then I'll turn it over to President Armacost following that. And the question is, why hasn't the institution put out a message regarding the ICE activity in Minnesota? We've received communication after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, but did not receive anything from the institution regarding the assassinations of Minnesota legislators until after Charlie Kirk's death, and now have not received communication regarding the violence in Minneapolis. Regarding the violence in Minneapolis that occurred just last week, and then the protests that have been occurring over the weekend and this week, we have had conversations about sending out a statement. We paused because we had the first day of classes starting Monday night, classes on Tuesday, and we wanted to have the town hall and hear from our campus community before we issued out a statement. We wanted to have the opportunity to have this conversation first. That would be the reason why there hasn't been a recent message. Relating that one to Charlie Kirk, we had, you may remember that just 2 weeks after the Charlie Kirk assassination in Utah, he was scheduled to be here on campus. There was great heightened anxiety and a lot of strong emotions around that, and knowing that the Turning Point event was still going to be occurring on our campus, we felt it was really important for us to get a message out in a timely manner. We are hearing everybody's feelings, as President Armacost mentioned in the beginning, and we take that very seriously, and we want to care for our community members. So with that, President Armacost, I'm going to turn it over to you if there's anything that you'd like to add to that.
I somehow can't come off video. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. So, there we go. Well said, Vice President Linder. Historically, we have some rules of thumb. I have some rules of thumb. When I communicate with the campus on national tragedies, it's typically to offer our reassurance, to make sure they know they have support services available to handle the stressors, just like I opened today's conversation with. I addressed the Minnesota cases along with a lot of other world events that are causing anxiety. My main concern is the health and well-being of our campus. And the Charlie Kirk question, it seemed there was a little bit of it seemed like a political question there. Melanie answered very well the proximity of his shooting to an event that was going to happen on campus. So there was a natural reason to comment. But in addition, our State Board of Higher Education put out a message as well. At that point, I was not prompted. We weren't yet ready to send a campus memo, but I felt it was also important to have the specific addition of Representative Portman from Minnesota and the tragedy that took her life and her spouse's life. These are all tragic situations. My goal is to recognize that each of them, regardless of political or ideological affiliation, or if it has nothing to do with any political ideology, to make sure that our campus feels supported. And your feedback asking that question is yet one indicator that maybe now is the time to respond to ICE. I will not take a political position, of course, but mainly to recognize the needs of the members of the campus. There was another question too about ICE. What are the rights of our students? We debated this last spring as well as ICE activities amplified across the nation. We had opted to give guidance, really have discussions through the International Center about what are the steps that they can take to make sure that their rights and health are taken care of appropriately. But I also have to say, if ICE or DHS were to come to campus, our chief point of contact is our chief of police and AVP for campus security and campus safety, and that's Chief Rodney Clark, who's on here today as well. So make sure to read if you have any questions about the engagement between our campus and ICE. Chief Clark is the right person. And then there was one final question. I'm hitting three at once, Melanie, about how do we protect our students and employees? A great question. If that is to protect, meaning to harbor, we can't. We are a campus that follows all federal guidelines, laws, and regulations, and state laws and regulations. If we know something is going to happen on campus in terms of student activities or protests or anything like this, we will continue to urge what we said up front: civility, free speech with a respect for other people, but also to make sure that if people feel unsafe, to reach out to us and let us know. So I think I hit three there as best as I could under the short timelines. Thanks, everyone. Great questions.
You did, President Armacost, and thank you, given our time. The next question, I'm going to turn over to Vice President Mojan-Stewart again. And the question is, can you explain how compensation reviews are being handled while the job architecture and compensation project is getting rolled out?
Absolutely. Sorry, my glasses are reflecting, so I'm trying to turn my head so you can see my eyes. Yes, so the compensation review process is continuing as it always has. So if you have comp review for new positions or changed positions, you can submit those. If you have any questions about the process or anything that's happening in the interim that I am not able to answer for you today, please reach out directly to Human Resources. Jennifer Moe is our lead compensation analyst. She will be able to answer that question, or of course, Associate Vice President Peggy Varberg is always open and willing to answer those questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My video is just a little slow as well. So I'm actually going to throw the next question over back to Vice President Mojan-Stewart. And again, it's just clarification because we're in that PMP evaluation period. But if positions need to be reevaluated, should they wait until this job architecture process is completed, or should they be submitted for review now?
That is a great question that I am not solid on the answer. So I would please ask that you reach out directly to Human Resources and ask that question, because I don't want to give you the wrong answer. I apologize.
Thank you so much. And again, just give my video a moment. There I am. Okay. One last question, and I'll send this to you, Vice President Mojan Stewart, but it might also go to Vice President Snyder. Will there be changes in the ACA subsidies, and will our benefits at UND be impacted?
I can start with that one. The ACA benefits that and changes to folks that are purchasing their health insurance through the ACA, that will not impact our health insurance plan at all. We are state employees, and so all of our health insurance benefits and other benefits are negotiated and determined by the state of North Dakota, and they're uniform for all state employees. And we have not been made aware of any changes to our existing benefits at this time. Those are always up for negotiation during every legislative session when they're renegotiating benefits with vendors. But I am not aware at this time of any changes to our benefits.
And I can
Schneider?
just, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Carla. I can just add on that is still being wrestled. I'm here in DC, happen to be here in DC today, just over my right shoulder on Capitol Hill. And so they are trying to figure out what to do with those subsidies in Congress as we speak.
Thank you so much, Vice President Marjan Stewart and Vice President Scott Snyder, for that. The last one is not a question, but I do want to just state it. And then before I turn it over to President Armacost for closing remarks, and that is a kudos that is going out to one of our custodians in the education building. They said that was the only building along the Centennial Drive that the doorways and sidewalks were salted on December 26th. They said, I heard from others that they saw him taking care of that personally that day. So big kudos to that member of our university team. And with that, President Armacost, I'm going to turn it over to you for our last closing remarks.
Awesome. Thanks, Vice President Linder. Melanie, you always do a great job facilitating, and thanks to Dave Dodds behind the scenes, floating all the questions to each of the appropriate respondents. Let me thank again everybody on our campus for what you do for these feedback sessions, but also how you engage our students and one another to build those connections, to build that strong sense of community. I mentioned earlier creating that strong sense of civility and respect as we wrestle with really tough issues. Jeff Holm sent me a quick note as we were talking earlier, just as a reminder of a great initiative that we started here. And Jeff actually serves on the board for a group called Unify America. It's based out of Denver, and it promotes civil dialogue among our students. And this is just an urging to faculty and staff members to encourage your students. This is a student event, to encourage your students to participate in this year's, it's called the Unify Challenge. I think it's a College Bowl. There was an email that was sent out about it. Amazing opportunities for our campus to promote that sense of civility. I'm a strong believer that our universities are the places where civil dialogue is hatched, that our society is better because of what happens and how we engage each other on our campus, that the challenges we face as a society are best solved through the dialogue and the methods that we can create here on our campuses, and our students will take out into the world beyond. So keep up all of that. Keep up your awesome work. One quick note on safety and ice on campus, physical ice, the stuff that is slippery. I know Vice President Stewart and I chatted earlier this week about coming up with some kind of early warning system, or if there's some spot on campus that is too icy and unpassable that needs attention, a way for you to notify us that should be an emergency spot where the crews come out immediately to fix. So we'll work on something like that so that when we do have these pop-up spots where they are impassable, we can take care of them right away. But bottom line, let me thank you for all you do. This is let's make this semester a great one. Enjoy, and thanks for tuning in today. We really appreciate it. Thanks to the team too for being panelists. We'll see you soon.